All right, I got the one and only Ray. How you doing, my friend?
Doing wonderful as you.
I got to ask you a quick question because it just hit me. You live in Kansas City. Are you a Kansas City Chiefs fan because of what happened yesterday?
Absolutely. I'm a little bit hoarse because I nearly lost my voice from yelling and screaming. Was that a game or what?
One of the best games I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I
And
think
boy, it could
Buffalo,
have gone either way.
yeah, and Buffalo, the last two games they played were absolutely amazing in their own right. And the way it kind of came down, I know there's a lot of disputes regarding overtime rules now. If whoever gets the ball first, if you score a touchdown, but congratulations. And I don't even think a lot of people know someone like you would be in Kansas City, especially being in the image and the fashion community.
I hear people all the time say, "You're bigger than your market. What in the world are you doing in Kansas City?" I
Yeah.
said, "Well, I do business all over the world. I just happen to be domiciled out of Kansas City." There's that magic invention, the internet and the phone. You can do business anywhere you want. So my roots are here.
Yeah. Let me give people real quick an idea of who you are. And a lot of times I don't do that. I kind of just talk about it as I go through. But in your
Mhm.
case, it's so unique. And I want to say one thing. I think out of all the people I've connected with, say on LinkedIn or social media that I've never really known personally, I have a lot in common with you, I think. Um, just a lot of, I love all the things you post. I like what you represented out throughout the years when it comes to the fashion image. The one thing we separate, which we'll talk about, is you being a cop, that's or an officer, a deputy sheriff, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So that
Both.
is
I did
something
both.
that, yeah. So that is something I don't have in common with you. But when it comes to our love for, I think, fashion, wardrobe modeling, and things in that nature, we have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing I think that's going to shock a lot of people is you're the founder and CEO of Career Image Modeling, which has been around for 40 years almost, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep. In about another month, 40 years.
You have worked in 48 different states and 29 other foreign countries,
Hmm.
which is crazy in itself. And you're one of the, if I'm not mistaken, one of the longest running modeling agencies in the United States.
Yeah. And the longest running in the Midwest and topping almost the longest running in the country.
And you were involved, you're an ambassador, I should say, with Barbizon since 1997. Is that correct?
Yeah. 18 plus years before I stepped down.
I graduated from Barbizon in 1987 in Chicago.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I loved it. And it was so different modeling back then, right? I mean, it was you now I with Instagram and with social media, everyone claims to be a model, but really back then, you had to prove your worth. You really had to learn how to work the runway. You had to know a lot of different steps, how to even walk upstairs correctly, how to literally do commercials to a certain degree, how to speak in front of the camera. And back then, Barbizon, I think, was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
It was one of the biggest entities in the industry back then, too. One of the top three choices.
Yeah, I think people devalue modeling schools. And I've done some consulting for John Casablanca and some others as
Yeah.
well. I even wrote a book, The Model Bible. But I think back then, especially because we didn't have the internet to teach us how to do a tie or how to dress correctly, how to do a pocket scarf, all these things, unless maybe you read a book. But by going there, it was like for me, because I grew up in the world of the fashion industry with my family owning one of the largest garment and tailoring shops in Chicago. And everyone thought, why would you go to a modeling school? You kind of were born and raised in this, even having family members that were models, females. But when I just said, I want to go check it out. I want to see what it's about. And they only picked back then like 12 men, I think, per, at least in
Yeah.
Chicago, per whatever, like half the year. And then they wanted to train us to go on and truly become a model if you had the opportunity. It wasn't just saying you were a model because you had to obviously do a lot more. But I learned so much there about so many different things. It really kind of just changed my life. And anyways, we could talk about Barbizon all day. Let's get into you now because, I want to see some things. How did you even get involved with the fashion industry or the modeling world? Like, how did that even come?
My first introduction was I had an older sister that was a model. Barbizon and Patricia Stevens were the two modeling schools she went through. And she was successful and she did acting as well. This back in the 60s when I consider things primitive by comparison today. because we used to sew by hand back then. Now we use machines. It's an entirely different world, as you well know. But growing up around that, and then I had a twin brother, and he and I both were entertainers. We played the guitar, we sang, we were in multiple bands. We had one band that was Sounds of Experience, and it was two sets of twins, because I'm a twin, an identical twin. And so that was a really interesting flavor. But growing up around entertainment and modeling, that's where I got it. And my mother looked like Sophia Loren on her best day. She was exceptionally attractive, stunningly attractive, French, Italian, brunette, looked 20 years younger than she was. And so I learned the proper grooming from her.
So you're saying then, did you go into modeling yourself and then go into doing, after doing theater or doing whatever you did, commercials, film? Did you just find a niche that was missing and you said, I want to fill it and help others?
You'll find this interesting. Growing up around all of that, it was a predilection, preparing me for something that I didn't think I was going to do. Left high school, went into the corporate world, climbed the corporate pole, did really well. And after 7.5 years, I thought, why umpire when I can play ball? I just didn't want to go that direction. So I looked at, well, what do I know? What could I do? And I looked at modeling. And I thought I could be an agent. I could be a manager. I knew enough about it to get in trouble. So quit my corporate job, took $1,100 out of a savings account, never borrowed money, never took a loan, started my first agency, Career Images, and then started climbing. At the end of my 5th year, I think I had 5 agencies, one in New York, one in Orlando, 3 in KC.
So now when you're doing this, you're also coming into the heyday of modeling. Let's face it, right?
Yeah, it was a good time.
Right. And you were competing against some unbelievable well-known names, John Casablanca. And I mean, the list, we could go on forever.
Yes.
How did you compete with these guys? Because you were in the Midwest, you weren't competing with, say, the East Coast, New York, even Milan, France, or maybe even LA or whatever. Is that how you think you survived kind of more? Or do you?
I live in the biggest nation in the world, determination. So when I came to this business, I didn't consider failure an option. I was extremely focused and had a lot to prove. Young kid, poor, just starting to not be poor. And so I had a lot to prove. And if I would have known, you'll laugh, if I would have known this industry was as aerobic and as competitive and negative as it is, I would have stayed with my corporate job. But a young man will do what an old man knows better. So I came in with big eyes and big appetite, but I did a thing called guerrilla marketing where I could get the big results, but didn't have the big ad budget, the ad campaign. I knew enough about promotion, marketing, and by God's grace was able to really come up. But I would work all the time, the BBD, the bigger, better deal. And so these companies, Barbizon and another that was in Kansas City, Mid-America's Model Guild was the biggest in Kansas City, and Patricia Stevens. I did everything they did, and then I did all the stuff they didn't do, which would make me hard to compete with. And quick on the trigger, people had good experiences, so they come back, the good old-fashioned comeback sauce. So that's how I did it. If I would have done it conventionally, I don't think I would have made it. And I remember the first 3 years, there was 3 players in Kansas City, and they said, who's this young Italian rich kid that's coming in making noise? And I was a force to be reckoned with. And it was tough, I will tell you. It was tough. And I consider the success, I'm proud of it because I didn't cheat to come up. A lot of people cheat, as you well know. They'll do dirty things in order to get what they want. Didn't do that. So you have to be pretty crafty. But as I say a lot, I have more tricks than a monkey with 40 feet of vine. So when you're in business and you can think of a number of ways to approach an issue, and I saw the problems back then as more opportunities. And my attitude was always, oh yeah, still is. So if something is tough and you got that wind in your face and you're fighting a challenge, right? You go, oh yeah, really? That's the best you can do. And then you go back with more force yet. Whichever is the more dominant force tends to win. I did martial arts for 28 years. So I learned that discipline by saying you're bigger than your opponent. And most of the fights I fought, I won before I ever stepped on the mat. And I know you know what I'm talking about because you have that same excellence.
Yeah, I played sports my entire life and all that type of things. When here's something too I want to ask you. So you're in this industry, and we know how corrupt a lot of times, and how what I do find again interesting with you being in Kansas City, because I was in Chicago when I was doing modeling, and I liked film more. I didn't grow to the height I thought I would because I was doing this in my later teens. Then when I left Chicago, because I just didn't see enough work there, even in film and television, it was just very scarce. I want to live in a warmer climate state. I was thinking of going to California or Florida. My father went to Florida, so I went there. What's interesting is I ended up growing another 4 inches. I still don't necessarily think I was tall enough. But Chicago was just, at that point in time, you got to realize I'm talking about the 80s. There's not a lot of film, not a lot of fashion. I mean, there's fashion there, more people driven towards maybe designing, not as many runway shows, obviously, not as much print work, really big market for kids. It was a strong market back then. But I had to leave there because there wasn't enough action. Were you somebody who create? I'll just say this. You look like you create a lot of action. You create a lot of your independent events.
Absolutely.
Is that you were more of you weren't somebody who was just going to Fashion Week in New York saying, all right, I got to, come here and recruit a bunch of models or try to get them in Vogue or whatever. You look very independent where you wanted to almost saturate the Midwest. Is that kind of
I appreciate you saying that because one, it's astute and you're accurate. I remember I was the first agency in Kansas City to go with BBWs, big, beautiful women, plus size women. And back then, people used to say they're too heavy. They can't be a model. No way. Same thing with petites. I was the first agency in Kansas City to really exploit in a positive way ethnic models. Okay. So I just kept adding because a full service agency would have all the divisions. And so I started out doing a handful of things really well and then anchoring or adding to it. To ultimately become a full service agency, which defies my philosophy of you can't be good at all things. So concentrate on the handful of things you're really good at, stay with your core competency. But we were able to develop and add, kind of like building a complex building, and then you build a whole bunch more buildings, you create a city. So that concept, layer by layer. But I remember all of that back then, and it was so different. I used to have a huge children's division and did really, really well with that. The thing I didn't like was high management was every time you sign little junior or little Sally, you sign mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and they knew more about it than you did. Just ask them. So it was a lot of moving parts, but the kids were wonderful. Now, because of social media, you have this huge amount of models that are children models trying for smaller market share. So it's all flipped. It's all entirely different. Yeah. So my strength is 18 to 26, white female, 5'7" and taller. Really? That's the bulk of what I book. With strength in other areas, the area that I'm weak in is I don't do much with kids, don't do much with radio. Those areas, not a lot, very little, but strong in the other areas.
I wrote my book, The Model By, really to help people protect themselves, or women, also for their parents. Because when I was in the industry and then my daughter started to really excel as a young girl in modeling, I got to see really like two different decades that were so far from one another. You got the 80s, but then I was making films in the 90s. So I was dealing with some models in the 2000s, but my daughter now being in the later 2000s is modeling. And I seen a lot of people being taken advantage of, photographers claiming they do all these things for them. Even some of the schools claiming that they had a lot of contacts after they graduated, which they didn't have. The cost of the schools, the just all telling people you could build their website for them, market their kid, and just being taken advantage of for thousands and thousands of dollars. And I also want to create it to help them in their careers understand they can venture into something else, because most likely modeling is a very short game for most.
Yes.
And I noticed, like, if you look at Tyra Banks or Heidi Klum or somebody that would write a book for them, for one, they did it 20, 30 years ago, which it was much different. And also they ventured onto other careers. And I noticed with you, it seems like you seem to do the same thing. I think you're really out to protect your models. You want to see them in the best light. And it's more than just saying, hey, go do a runway or go do a photo shoot. You're looking, to me, it looks like you're helping them with setting themselves up for a career for the future. It could be acting. It could be a corporate job. It could be whatever they're doing. But you really, I think, want to give them an image of credibility and positivity. And would you say that's kind of what you're about?
Once again, you're spot on. There's three types of agents. I'm writing a book called An Agent's Etiquette. I wrote a book about my childhood, Rags to Riches story, typical. But the agent's etiquette, pretend I'm your rich uncle or I'm your dad. My dad owns all these agencies. He's been doing this for 40 years. Man, the stuff I know, the advantages I have tactically. I have so many leverage advantages because of the stuff that he has taught me and told me. I really know how things work and how to get it done. I'm writing that book like I was that person for you. So you, the reader, the new neophyte that doesn't know they don't know, that needs the help, you will not make a bunch of mistakes because you'll hear the rudiments all the way up to the sophisticated on how to get stuff done, what to avoid, how to ID good players, bad players, how to hedge against the liabilities, all of it. If it's somebody experienced, then they have whiplash because they're nodding their head a bunch, going, that is so true. What he is saying is exactly the way it works. That is so spot on, that kind of thing. So that book, I'm about 25% of the way through. But what I was going to say earlier, there's three types of agents. The fast talking car salesman, that doesn't mean anything they say. They're negative sum. They win, you lose. They get the donut, you get the hole. They don't care. And they're churn and burn them. They're on to the next one. Well, that agent usually lasts 3 years or less before they hit critical mass, where enough people go, I've had dealings with them and they're bad people. The second type of agent profile would be the female, typically model that did well, had a baby, C-section scar to prove it. And she goes, well, I can't model anymore, but I can be an agent. I know all about how this works. And yet that person doesn't know contracts, negotiation, personal service agreements, how to manage people. So that person means well, but that dog typically can't hunt. And then the third type of agent are people like me. They come with a business background, savvy skills, and we can get things done. There are reactive and proactive agencies. And I see a lot of people, agents I call clerks, because they react to things. They'll put someone on their website, they'll do a put and hope, and then hope that a client sees them on the site and maybe gives them a call and they place them. But a good agent, a good manager doesn't do that. They put them on the website using that tool, but many others. And when I put somebody on there, I pick up the phone and call a handful of clients that I know could use them. And go get a pen and paper. I have a name for you. Oh, you got another new one? Yes. You want to meet them? Yes. Are they on your site? Yes. So while we're on the site, I take them through the models page. And they go, by golly, I'm glad you called. I've got this booking coming up and I think I can use them. And next thing you know, you close. That good old fashioned art of selling, because agents can tell, but you should sell. If you really believe in your people, convince the client, especially when you know the model's right. If you don't think the model's right, don't lie to your client. But getting those results, I have a lot of clients, 40% of the work I book is power booking. Power booking is where an agent has that much influence with the client. And the client goes, Ray, you know what we need, fill it. And I position myself as project manager and a lot of times as the casting director. So I'll fill that portion, that link in the chain. And it gives me a lot more. And the fun part is I play white politics. There's black politics, white politics. The white politics is if there's 5 models that can do that booking, the client's going to pick one model. They go, Ray, they're all good. All 5 of them. Help me. You know the models better than I do. Which of these 5 do you think's right? The devil, the angel. The angel always wins. I'll do what's right. So I'll go with the other 4 have already worked and done bookings, but my newbie hasn't. So I'll give it to the newbie. Because that way that starts that entry on the resume and you start building. As you know, it's layers.
Yeah. In the book again, or what I teach when I help people consult with modeling, start with the business, work your way back. You have to educate yourself in the industry. If not, you're going to get taken advantage of. And if you're too lazy to read a contract, I'm not saying you have to understand every aspect of it, but you got to know what you're going up against, and, get your parents involved. If not, get an entertainment lawyer. It's all about protecting yourself. They don't realize what they're signing a lot of times, and they don't understand the business side of things. They think they're just going to take great photos. They're going to get discovered and they're going to be making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're going to end up a supermodel, which the odds of that are, in the millions. So,
I got a thought that just came to me hearing what you said, and I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
But once I get the fly up thought, I want to say it. One of the things that I think is interesting is I like to empower people. Most agents, typical agent wants you to be dependent on them. I'll handle all that for you. They want to control you. I'd rather empower the model, help them help themselves, frees up my time zone to help more people, because we aren't here on this planet very, very long, but it's good to help people to do better. So a lot of times that's the method that I do. People will, the good old fashioned comeback sauce is when you treat people right, they have a good experience, they'll stay with you. But I see a lot of agents that don't do that. And my contract is written bilaterally. So when you sign it, now you're part of the club. Now our resources, our powers, our knowledge become yours. So you don't give up anything, because I can co-op as your mother agency with other agencies. I've got models I'm sending to Miami Showcase in Florida. I won't be too far from you, North Miami. And we're doing that February the 28th. And I'm flying down and doing that with the models, 8 of the top agent agencies. And the people I'm bringing down, the 4, they'll get picked up 4 or 5 of the 8, every single one of them. And we'll convert that into taking them back into the market for high paid bookings beyond Kansas City, because there's only so much you can do here. When somebody hits critical mass, you got to build them in a tertiary manner beyond that. Otherwise, it slows down. And so I enjoy that part of it because,
Yeah, I get it.
many people don't know. Tell me if you agree with this. I did a success deal. This reporter came to me at the end of my first year in business, and she goes, "Man, you're making all kinds of noise. It's amazing. Can we do a story on you on the air?" And I said, "Yes." I was all impressed at the time because I knew that would grow my business. Now I avoid those things. I'm not interested in it. But back then, she did the interview, and about the end of the interview, she said, "This is just amazing. All the things that we've learned from you and what you've said and the advice you're giving and the achievements in a market that we really didn't think there was that much work, but it's amazing some of the successes you have. What would you say the main thing you manage is?" And I remember there was 2 cameras, and a tele light went up on the primary and the other one came on. And I turned to the camera and I go, "Well, the model's career, of course." And she goes, "We've been speaking with Ray LaPietra," does the sign off. A year later, I do another interview, similar, a different station. In the middle of the interview, she said, "Wow, you really manage a lot. What would you say the main thing you manage is?" And I said, "Well, the model's expectation first, their opportunity second, and their career third, and in that order." So just in the course of a year, I was learning how to be a better agent. I used to make the mistake, I'll put you in New York within a year. I said that to Stephanie, one of my models, 5'10" redhead, skinny as a rail, exactly what New York wanted. And I did it in 9 months. Now I'm smart enough, I wouldn't say that.
No.
Because that would mislead the person.
Yeah. And you don't even know.
I can't
But they're going to
control
go
it.
through what the pandemic, anything. I'm just saying you have no idea. You can't dictate the future.
Right. So
Agent.
now with experience, I don't say that. I just do it. Well, we'll go after this. We'll try this. Because the only thing I'm going to guarantee is what I can control.
Yeah, I throw a lot onto the model. And for one, I tell them, listen, you have to learn how to be unique. You got to start to learn how to set a trend, not follow it. Also, it is up to you to kind of take the reins. The agent is kind of just your sidekick. You're not theirs. You cannot depend on them. They're busy. They have a lot of clients and they need to make money. You need to make money to survive. But when it comes to models too, I tell them, listen, there's always going to be somebody prettier than you. There's always somebody taller than you. Somebody's always going to have better hair than you. Someone's going to have better eyes than you, better skin complexion, all this. None of it matters. What's going to make you stand out, right? What is going to make you become the next thing to a certain, you have to create that. Don't always expect somebody else to take it. Even if you look at the decades of different models that broke out, they're so different from one another.
Yes.
Things change. Like even now, look at how things have evolved, even with plus size, all this. So my point being is, you got to work with your agent or your manager. There's no question about that. But you now, especially with social media, have the opportunity to showcase who you are and what you want to do. Don't just wait to do a photo shoot with another photographer for another brand. Get your ass out there, start doing photo shoots, start representing the brands you want to represent. Start, if you're not with a top agency, prove to that agency on social media why you should be signed. You don't have to just, you call or you email or you send your photos and you get rejected. It's over. That's just the beginning. Make people want to hire you. So anyways, we could go on and on with the models and agents.
And I call that the POD, the point of difference. Some people call it the X factor, but the reality is if you clone yourself and you're another good choice, you get lost in the mix. But those people that you go, ooh, I love the hair, I love the freckles, there's just something about them.
Right.
And I tell people, models all the time, you don't win by a length, you win by a nose. It's those little things that you do that will make the difference. And it does work.
Yeah. And you gotta have a lot of things in your arsenal. Like, not just be good at walking on a runway, be unbelievable at walking on a runway, and also maybe create some other things involved with that can kind of catch people's eye. With posing, a lot of them think they can pose very well. And let's face it, they have 12, 15 go-tos. If you look at, I've been watching Project Runway. I have a close friend that's in the final four and she's doing exceptionally well. And they had a model, what's it, Coco? And she has over 100 different, on a drop of a dime, she has supposedly like 100 different poses. Now, if you go do a photo shoot, can you imagine not only the brand loving that, but every photographer wanting to work with you? So now you turn it on its head. Now now everybody wants to work with you instead of you having to chase them. But again, what are you bringing to the table? Not just posing. Are you very prepared when people research your name? Is there, you got to understand, I think too now with models, if you really want to go to a high level and somebody hires you as a brand, or a brand hires you, I'm sorry, you're a part of that brand. Like before, it was kind of, you were an unknown. If you were on the cover of a magazine in the years ago, no one knew who the hell you were for the most part. Now, if Prada hits you, if you look at a lot of their top models, they're modeling the name of that model along with their brand. So if that's $1 billion brand, what do you look at yourself as? So, these are things that I think they have a lot of opportunities to take advantage of. I'm too old, but if I was younger, I would take a whole different type of, way to go about modeling. Or just I talk about that with actors and actresses as well. You want to start pumping out things that people are blown away. Don't keep waiting to get casted. Go on. It's not 1995 or 87. You got to go on 700 auditions and you finally get your chance. That shit's, good luck with that. So, so let's get.
I tell people that jury set bad guys free because they like them. So I tell the models, be likable, because you're dealing with human beings and emotions. If they like you, I have even taken models on castings and I role play with them ahead of time. Right. I say, we're going to go through what you're getting ready to go through. So you're going in. We're not going to let this be rehearsed. It's got to be real. But the reality is, I'm not going to let you get caught off guard. So they go in prepared. And I become that person. Ooh, that's a question I didn't even think of. So you give them an idea. But I have had clients say, I like you so much, I'm going to create a booking for you because I don't have anything right now, but I just like you. I like everything about you. And I'm going to create a booking for you. Ray was right. Ray said, I would like you. He's right. I use a method called the halo effect. You and I both know our words are weapons. We use them, tools. And a lot of times I will say certain things that I know to be true to the client. And when I'm done, the client goes, "Wow, you really make him sound great. You make her sound great. You got a hook in my mouth. I'll tell you what, I think I'm interested in her." And just because of the lemo juice, the right phrase, right deal. And a lot of times if you get the officious client that wants to pick the wrong model, a lot of times you go, "Can I make a suggestion?" I usually start with that. And because it's a word game. And they'll go, "What's your suggestion?" You might want to consider this model, and here's the reason why. Because this model is better than the choice that you have. That model can do that booking, but this model offers this, this, and this. Do you think that's better? Yes, I do. Wow. Remember, you're looking at pictures. You don't know my models. I know my models. This is an ability to perform booking, not just a visual. So this model has the ability to do that quicker. And you're on a tight budget. You got 2 hours to shoot it. You need somebody that can shoot it in 1.5, 2 hours. So I raise valid points. That's that finery, because a lot of agents gloss right over that when you can point out valid things that are truthful things that will help your people. I love that process, because
Yeah.
when you believe in somebody, then it's fun to go shopping. And then when you hit it, it becomes a mutual, hoorah, which I love.
Yeah, my book actually came out of, I was going to open an agency out of LA. I was in San Diego at the time. And I wrote out a whole outline. It was whatever, 60 pages of what I expected out of my model. And people are like, this should just be a book, dude. But a lot back to the agency too, I think the agents or managers have to hire the right type of women that are educated, that are not just goal driven. I get it. But I wanted if I was going to hire you for anything, as far as a model goes, I need you to know a lot about this industry, because I don't only want to just send you there and you take great photos. I want to see how you carry yourself with a photographer. Are you flirting with them? Or what are you doing there? How are you behaving? Are you on time? All those type of things. Also, if I'm going to send you to go work for a brand, how much do you know about that brand, right? How much do you know about this industry? Because I do not, if you're going to be an agent or if you have a model out there, you're each representing one another. But most women, I think, models, when they get too caught up in the limelight, they get caught up in being told always what to do, which is understandable if you're at a shoot. But they also have to understand there's a fine line between not being taken advantage of, not maybe getting caught up with partying and doing a lot of drugs. And I know that is part of the game. But the reality is it doesn't have to be. You're going to build a lot of credibility by how hard you work and what you bring to the table when you come to work, how knowledgeable you are when you're there. How hard are you working? Are you complaining? Do you look like a deer in headlights? So in my opinion, most women, even when I got out of modeling school, or even a lot of actresses that I've worked with in my films, I can tell immediately who the pro is and who isn't in literally seconds. I can tell immediately by the way they're talking to me, the way they're looking in my eyes, what they've done in their past. I could tell by the way they're running lines. They're not talking a lot of shit when they're there. They're not walking around. They're not worrying about schmoozing. They're there to do a job. And I think a lot of women now, again, with Instagram and all these other things, they don't know these things. And they're anti-school. They don't want to spend money. And a lot of schools do get bum rap. But at the same time, they think they're just going to walk somewhere and start taking photos like they're on the side street with their buddies or their friends doing something, again, for social media. They're not prepared. So I can tell with a lot of your models and a lot of things that you represent online, they look very prepared. I want to give you a lot of credit for that, because I don't see that a lot. I can immediately tell if I look at a lot of photo shoots or stuff or people sending me things. I'm like, this is nothing. This is not jumping out at me. I don't care how sexy she is. There's, again, thousands of sexy women out there. I'm not saying that they're not going to make money, a lot of them, but also be aware of it not working out. I always talk about maybe taking what you have and taking it to the next level. So let's jump into you being a cop. I'm excited about this before we forget. Because I don't know, we're going to shift this. We don't have to get too far because we're both kind of image consultants and everything. But what does blow me away is honestly how you got a couple awards too from Barack Obama, Trump. And I mean, for somebody to look like you do, and as far as, your business and everything, I would never have assumed that you were a sheriff. How does that even come to be? Where does this come from?
Well, the bad childhood growing up, all the injustice. It was a way to squeeze lemons, and I didn't just make lemonade. I went for the lemon factory. So the reality is, went into law enforcement with that pursuit. I want to put on a uniform, and I want to do something about things I couldn't do when I was a little kid being beat. So in that, I'll tell you an interesting story. When I was a deputy sheriff, I served warrants on the very house that I grew up in, where the beatings and starvings took place. The very house. I was a lieutenant. I had 17 deputies on that house. I did not let them know that was the house I grew up in. I said, guys, before we serve this warrant, glass packs, went down the list of dynamic entry, flashbangs, the whole bit. And I said, I know every square inch of this 1,404 square foot house, 4-bedroom, 1 bath, no furnace, boom, boom, boom. When we hit that, after we cuffed and stuff and got everybody out, I had 2 rookies in my patrol car there. We're going to roll crime tape, try to put the door back up. I said, you guys stay here. I'm going to go up and use the bathroom. What I did was walk up 14 steps, a landing, 6 more steps, stepped into a 6x9 room, my room, where I was that little boy that did all those incarcerations, and stood there as a grown man in uniform, married, living a happy, prosperous life and remembering how hopeless that was and going back. And I became very emotional. I cried. I thanked God for the blessings, for everything that he had brought me through. But it all looked so small back then, when you look at it.
Right.
But it was amazing. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I was a good cop. I saved a few people because we had bullies with badges back then too. Now it's even worse. We have a lot of good law enforcement, but we had bad people.
Mm.
And saved more than a few because we're supposed to represent the good people. But it was cathartic to me to be able to do that. And I write about that in my book very descriptively.
So Ronnie Coleman, he's a professional bodybuilder. He's called the King. I don't know if you know, he's won so many of
Yes.
them. I don't know, was he won 6, 7? I don't know. He's huge. I love that guy. He was very wealthy. He was winning Mr. Olympias, and he was also a cop. He refused to give up that part of his life, even though he didn't need it financially. And I think he was in Detroit in a lot of bad areas, I think, Ronnie Coleman. Anyways, were you working 2 different careers at this time? Because I don't even know how.
Yes.
Okay, so you're running the agency and you're.
I closed the office, get out of a $4,000 suit, go get in uniform, and become a whole different person. And they used to call me Hollywood on the departments. I don't know, because I came in all polished and coiffed and drove up at that time I drove a Mercedes, and they said, "Oh, who's the new rich kid at the academy?" Thinking I'm playing hobby cop. Then they found out that I wasn't a elitist. I wasn't a bad guy. I was just a regular guy. And, but I had all that against me, didn't know it. I'll never forget all that. But I remember the area that I did in Wyandotte County, there's 102 counties in the state of Kansas. And Wyandotte County is the highest crime county out of all of them, right where my house, my childhood was. And that's where we served all the warrants. I worked jail, road patrol, all the divisions, but was a lieutenant for warrants. Wow. But so I know how rough that is. And it was a whole different thing back then. Yeah. I mean, people respected your authority. And when you said you're under arrest, get on your knees, they would do it. Now they pull their gun quicker than you have to pull yours. It's crazy. Wow. I respect law enforcement, and you can pay me enough money to do it now. So kind of like the good boxer, get out while you're still champ, quit while you're ahead.
Yeah. You had a good run. So let's kind of jump back into image and things in this nature. So besides the, your company with the models and all that, there's other things you do as well, right? Is it more consulting to not just women? Is it men and women, or is it
both?
Give me an idea, or give the audience an idea, because I deal with identity a lot, and I also deal with relationships. I try to help men find a woman.
Yeah. I like your books and your writings.
Thank you. I kind of have a different.
You've helped a lot of people.
I try to work from the outside in. That's just my thing, and I think you like kind of that concept. We respect the outside exterior of ourselves, no matter what anyone says. We don't lie about it. We don't care if you call us vain. We do like to look a certain way. And
my comeback is the world needs peacocks.
Well, so besides the modeling and that, what else? I mean, tell people, because I know you're involved with many other things too, as far as even putting groups of people together, doing events, not just modeling, correct?
Yes. I taught both my grown sons, which live with us. We have a very big house in Overland Park. And I tell them, don't have a side hustle, have many. You can create as many revenue streams and pursuits as you want. Just make sure you can chew what's in your mouth. But I do what really fulfills me at this point is public speaking and consulting. Public speaking, I enjoy it. Coaching one-on-one, I do a lot of that. I turn a lot of people down, because if I can't say something that can make the difference for them, why would I make a difference? Then it's just a transaction. Because I know public speakers or consultants that are very good at what they do, but they're doing it for a paycheck and they're too impressed with themselves, their credentials. I pretend I don't know stuff. That way I'm constantly learning. But in this situation, that is so fulfilling. The modeling hasn't been fulfilling me the last 3 years. Some of it's fulfilling. I have very close relationships with many of the guys and gals, but some people, you can't help them at the level that that if they would let you, you could.
Mhm.
And so not a lot of satisfaction there. And once you climb the mountains up and down a few times, you put all that in perspective. When I used to buy more businesses, I owned a sound and video production house, a limo service, magazines, all these different companies. And I used to think making more money and owning more businesses would make me more successful.
Yeah.
It took me 10 years to grow up to learn that, Ray, that's not correct. Less is more. And so I separated my prosperity from my success. My prosperity is living in a gorgeous house, multiple homes, cars, money, all that stuff. But my success is being honorably married for 40 years, a good Christian, honorable businessman, good father, good husband.
Yeah.
The stuff that money doesn't buy. And I know
Right.
this sounds corny to some people, but it's true.
Yeah.
Because proper principles are corny by today's standard, but they're still right. It's
Yeah.
still the truth. People anymore, they don't believe in gravity, but it's still real, whether you believe it or not. And so the reality is, I'm hurt by what I see. I see so many nasty people, and I see a role reversal too. When you're an honest and caring and decent agent, it
Yeah.
used to be, boy, that was your calling card. I like Ray. Ray's a good guy. He's my friend, which is very unprofessional, but being personal and people knowing that you care and helping them in ways that are not career related, which is, I do that as a lifestyle. Because I'm thinking of this one mother that said, you've helped my daughter, my 16-year-old daughter, more in just being a friend to her, and the things
Yeah.
you've taught her with all your positive attitude comments, that's helped her more than the modeling, which made me feel good, because I pour myself into people. And as you know, sometimes you pour into them, and you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him think. So some people just don't get it, but you do what you can do. And it's real fulfilling when you go, hey, we can do some stuff together. I believe in you and I see this in you. And are you aware you could accomplish this?
Right.
Really, Ray, you think so? Yes. Well, I don't know how. Well, let's talk about that. And then you start showing them, making the B into an A. They're already an A. Just let them catch up. But it's fun. It's rewarding. And I don't get that high as much anymore. I do in consulting, because the expectation, the circumstantial sabotage that goes to being an agent. If the model gets a bunch of work, it's a drug. They like the high. But then when the career slows down, because as you know, careers go up and down, then all of a sudden, why am I not working as much? I want that drug again. They're in withdrawals. Guess whose fault it is? The agents. Just ask them. When you're still doing everything right. So I hate that seat in the theater. It's the worst seat in the house.
Yeah.
So, but
it.
some people go, I get it. We do stuff together. Ray, you were totally straight with me. And you build equity. I love that. So I do more of that in the public speaking and more of that in my consulting, because it's less moving parts. And only one guy's got to get out of bed, shower, get in a suit and go show up at such time, me. So much of what I do depends on other people doing what they do. And I'm only as strong as the people. So that's a frustration.
I mean, being in the industry now for 40 years too, it does take a toll on you, because a lot of things are just, not just because they're changing, but it's just, we've done a lot of things. Like even writing a book, like I'm writing a cookbook, say with my mother, a third book. Let's face it, it's not easy to keep doing something like making films after making a couple and then some shorts and writing multiple screenplays and everything. You burn out. I think you only have sometimes so much in the tank regarding certain things. And that's why I like to evolve. Yes. I have to, even my YouTube channel, like Rich, you're doing podcasts, then you do your own videos, then you're doing a talk football show. And then the next one, it's a fashion show and I think sometimes we box ourselves in for long careers, which you have, but you've also done so many unique things. What do you think the future for you? I mean, you were a cop, you're a martial artist, you've done the image, you've done modeling. What do you think the next 10 years for you is going to be?
The next 10 years, I'm 3 years away from retiring for sure.
Really?
I can retire now. My broker says, why are you working? You can retire now. And I said, I'm not done yet. You see that I look younger than I'm supposed to at 65. So I'll probably live to be 95. So I'm gonna make sure I don't outlive my dollars. So I'm gonna work just a little bit longer to have, crazy money. And then that way I'm leaving more than a legacy to my boys and all that. So
Yeah.
she laughs when I do the math and I go, your math is good, but I live by a phrase, good, better, best. Never let it rest till the good gets better and the better gets best. I see often with everybody, mainly people that are achievers in any industry, they go, that's really good. I've reached it. I've made it. Models make this mistake.
Yeah.
They go, I've made it. I've made it. I did over 100 bookings in 3 years. Man, I've made all this money. And look, they think they've made it. That's very good, but that's a long ways. Good is the enemy of awesome. I tell people, once you get good, then look for a way to make it better. And then once it's better, look for your best, because success is often, as you heard it, is a journey, not a destination. So, and again, I do the mindset with models. I tell them, are you predisposed to succeed? Do you want to win or you want to lose? Well, I want to win. Well, that remains to be seen. So then I do this word game, these psychology methods with them to show them how to get this thinking right, to where they can be predisposed to be able to enjoy, because a lot of times people, the head has to be there, as you well know.
Oh, yeah.
Like I tell them, have you thought about what you want to do? Yes. Well, give me specifics. And it's all general stuff. And so I do that narrow down, mainly in the interview, because I say no to majority of people that come in. I only allow a handful of people each week, 1 day a week. And 7 out of the 10 that I allow in each week, 7 or 8 out of the 10, it's a no with an explanation. And then 2 or 3, depending on the week, it's a yes. And then I'll bring him in. I took other agencies over because they would represent anybody. They put as many people in the market as they could, throw it against the wall, see what sticks.
Yep.
That's that clerk agent again. Somebody doesn't know how to run their business. I bring in people who have value that will complement my bouquet or my offer to the industry. And then I have more choices. And I see agencies that have competition within their own agency. They might have 20 people that all look exactly the same.
Yeah.
So they're all competing with themselves plus everybody else. Yep. So it's a better deal if, you spread that out a little wider. And again, agents represent too many people. So I don't do that either.
Yeah, I think a lot of models too are distracted, or just people in the entertainment industry. I started to realize that at the end when I was shooting a film, when, texting and everything became more in social media. Back then it was really MySpace. I'm dating myself, but then Facebook was coming out, right? And then Instagram was just coming along. And, now they were texting people a lot more than before. They're looking at their phone constantly. But, that's just the nature of the business now. How attuned are they of really their environment? How prepared are they when they're going to do what they're doing? What is this? You could just immediately tell who's distracted and who isn't. But I do some anti-aging stuff. I love helping older people, and I've been doing stuff. Nothing wrong with having a midlife crisis, all these things. You are somebody who looks amazing at your age. Now, be honest with me, because, and I'm not anti anything. I don't care if you take Botox. I don't care if you get plastic surgery. I don't care if you get plugs in your head. If that's what you want to do, wear a tube. I just want you to feel good about the way you look. Because a lot of people bullshit themselves and say, I feel good. I don't care about the way I feel. No, you kind of do. Also, a lot of people do feel good, but they don't like the way they look simultaneously. It's like, I feel good, but I don't like I don't look good, those type of things. In your case, what has worked so well for you? Because you're so youthful and in amazing shape. Besides style and fashion, what else? Besides, I don't want to just get caught up in a diet or fitness. What do you think? Give me the whole gamut is what has worked for you, because this is not something that you've been doing for 10 years. This has been something you've been doing for many, many decades.
Well, like going back when I was a cop, they go, are you even old enough to wear a gun and a badge? Because I look so young.
Right.
So
is
young.
it genetics though with you think? But you also have to take care of your skin. And what else are you doing?
To answer your question, genetics is the main thing.
Sure.
I age at a slower pace, and my mother looked 20 years younger than she was.
Sure.
And she was super fastidious about her skin, her diet, stuff like that. So I would say genetics and all those years of martial arts being in competition shape, because I've never smoked. I don't do drugs. I almost never drink. I mean, so I don't do any of those things that are bad. When my body says slow down, I stop. I slow down. I used not to, but you learn. But genetics and all those years of being in peak performance shape, 4% body fat, eating right, all of that, all those years of being a cop, I was in super fighting condition. So those years reward you as you get older. What I do now is you start ahead of the game because you're slow to age, Dick Clark method, because he had good genetics too, very slow. But if you protect the cell, the catabolization of the cell, if the cell dies, then that's where you get sags, lines, all that stuff. You start looking. I take hair vitamins. I use medical grade products on my skin, medical pharmaceutical grade. I don't use anything OTC. Things that have unique things in them, stem cell, different things like that. The sun is not our friend. So you have to do things to stop that. I had real white teeth. I went to Hollywood white and went from white off the Vita scale to something ultra, ultra white.
Yeah.
So my white smile enters the room 15 minutes before I do. And it was funny because the cosmetic dentist goes, your teeth are really white. Why would you? They're already A1s. And I said, but I want to be off the Vita. He goes, how do you know what a Vita scale is? ... But again, and tell me if you agree with this. When you look at people, there's usually one or two things that stand out, especially at the attention step when you first meet them, the first impression. Yeah. And so that first thing that jumps out at you. And so a lot of times I enjoy seeing that in somebody and I go, well, there's their 3 attaboys. You know, mine would be the smile and the thick dark hair. I feel like I'm starting to show just a little bit. Sure. But you preserve as long as you can. Yeah. And again, self-acceptance, because this is not a sexist statement. You'll probably agree with me. Men age better, typically, not over every woman, but men tend to age better than women. The fuse burns a little longer. So it's a little kinder. Look at Johnny Carson. He was skinny and wasn't impressive and dynamic, but as he got older, he filled in more. Frank Sinatra filled in more, and the silver hair and all of that. I mean, it just became distinguished. You going from hair to the look you have now, but this is so good what you do with the facial, with the hair, face hair, because you look good in that. It's distinguished. It's powerful. It's a signature. And so it looks right. And so you've learned how to do appropriate things for you. You go, but that fits him, as opposed to somebody trying to mimic somebody else and doing a style that's not them.
Yeah, you got to figure out what works best for you. You know, like I always say, start with the mouth a lot of times. It's no joke with teeth, because if people take care of their teeth, let's face it, they're most likely going to take care of the rest of the body. Usually. And
if you have superior oral care, people don't realize the bacteria that's going into your organs, you're slow death. But if I've never had a cavity, and my oral care is just top 1%. When I get my teeth cleaned every 6 months, 2 times a year, they don't even get practice because it's just, there's nothing to do. And they always tease me about that. So my standard joke is, all right, the next time I'll come in, I'll eat a box of Oreos before I come in, because there's really nothing to clean. But I do a regimen really good. I use an expensive toothbrush. Scraping your tongue is smart. Using non-acidic and proper pH rinses, irrigating and all that. There's just certain things. But, you know, and I eat well. I'm not a purist because I like steak. So I'll have that, but I don't do it too often. And I look at it as a balancing act, you know, 3 negative things, 5 positive things, you know, where you can do a little bit of it because your body can handle that. But I don't do destructive things. And as I've gotten older, when I get tired, I stop. Used not to. I stop. My body's telling me something, answer it.
You got to pay attention. Your body's telling you things constantly, you know? We just, a lot of times.
You probably agree too that it's a mindset, because I don't really think about the age, the number. And I feel old inside, you know what I mean? And I know you know what I'm talking about. It's the miles, not the years. You've done so many things that you feel like an old soul, but yet you're youthful.
I learned that
self-aware.
I went to Italy with my uncles and with a couple of my uncles, and one was the oldest, which is almost 80. And he had more energy than almost all of us, which was hilarious. Then he had a younger brother who had some health conditions that we're trying to work through while going through Italy. And there's no joke going around when you go through Europe. It's not like you can pull people around in a wheelchair,
Yes.
especially when you're going everywhere, including places like Venice. But it was amazing because he never, and I don't eat like it was just about the moment and going forward with him.
Yes.
And having, all this energy to eat and go. And we went in carnival time back to Venice again, but we went to Milan. We went everywhere, Naples, Florence. We went everywhere. And they both actually had the energy. And I was with my older cousins too. And they actually were like maybe at times a little more tired or fatigued than the old timers that are almost double their age,
Yes.
which is,
Yes.
again, it's a mindset, but of course they're running companies and businesses. And I think maybe the emotional toll too of what maybe they were going through. But, I meet people all the time. I don't care what age they were throughout my entire life. You go to South Florida, because I've been going there my whole life. You'll have 80-year-old men that'll never stop. Then you can have a 60-year-old retired guy that never gets off the couch, right? That could barely do a damn thing. So, and then you got 30-year-olds too, 20-year-olds gamers that could barely walk around the block. So it is what it is.
What do you do that keeps you, because you have great energy and your body is physically fit, really fit. So what do you do? What's your regimen?
I started working out at 5 years old, honestly, with being able to sneak in a YMCA and other family members having weights and just never stop playing sports. And then at 18, I kind of quit all sports because I played so many of them and just weightlifted.
Yes.
So one thing I think I never stopped. So the consistency of doing that, which, has taken a toll on my body. Don't kid yourself with my tendons and joints. I tell a lot of people, hey, if you've never worked out and you're 40, that's great because you're you don't realize it. You're fresh as a daisy. You probably haven't destroyed your joints playing tons of sports, your knees, your ankles, my lower back, my torn rotator cuffs, all these things. But I'm just very consistent when it comes to fitness. I am going to be in the gym 4 to 5 times a week. I'm also very active when not in the gym. So I try to be, even if it's going to a theme park or swimming, or if you're going to go do something, because people, I think a lot of times think, oh, I work out 2 hours a day for 3 or 4 days a week, 2 hours. And then they sit on their ass for the rest of the time. Right. I'm just saying, so I'm always looking at what am I going to be when I'm 60? What am I going to look like when I'm 70? I'm working out towards the future of, I always have these different things of what type of shape do I want to be in, when I get there. Not just about here and now, because so many people, as quit. They'll work out for 3 months, quit for 6, work out for a year, take 6 months off. That I think is the backbreaker. But I found what works for me. I just want other people to find what works for them. And I think that's the trick to consistency. It's not.
Well, you're saying it right.
Yeah, it's the gym. Yeah, the gym's my thing. Your thing may be surfing. I don't know, hiking. Your thing in the Midwest may be hunting. I don't know what it is.
Gym and martial arts are my 2 things.
Those are, and you found them and you'll stick with them. A lot of people go do things they don't want to do, or go do things that other people are telling them to do. Or also they may want to be not social, then go do something independent, or they're doing something independent when they should start making things social. There's so many things you can do to stay in better shape, but a lot of people want to just ignore them or not discover them. So,
and when I talked earlier about I can retire now, but I'm on a 3-year plan. Retirement to me means I'll still work. I'll still probably end up doing more than I do now, but I will be very active. I think keeping your mind active. I love to read, voracious appetite for knowledge. I know people spend more money on their car than they will on themselves with their self-improvement.
100%.
It's pathetic. It's the greatest investment. Stay out of the stock market, invest in yourself, because the more you know this, it's so much easier because it pays great dividends.
Most people are looking at how much money will I have for retirement, hypothetically, or how much money can I make it in this point of my time in my life? I always, what's the price value of your health? Because most people, even if they do end up retiring, by the time they retire, what type of condition are you in? Now, usually they've neglected their health. Now they're going to spend more time probably at the doctor, or now they're trying to play catch up. Now they didn't even realize they were obese for 30 years, or they've been well overweight, or they may need a couple stints because the food they've been eating. Again, the quicker they realize their health is the number one priority of their life for their future, for them, their family, and everyone, the better off they're going to be. They're just looking at their bank account. They're not looking at their blood work, or they're not looking at, their weight. And a lot of people give themselves the pass. And that doesn't mean you have to be obsessed with fitness or you have to go on crazy diets or any of these things.
Yeah.
So you got to make it work for yourself.
Part of what helps me too, my wife and I are extremely close. When you marry your best friend, you did it right. We dated 6 years. We've been married, be 40 years in May 15th.
Congratulations.
My biggest achievement, people say, what's your biggest achievement in life? Being honorably married, especially in this business where they throw minute rice at the wedding. Holy cow, I love my wife way too much for that ever be an element. And being a good father, good husband, that kind of thing. But we have coffee every morning and we get our decompress time every single morning. Did it again this morning. I value that time. That's that quiet time and it's just us and we get to catch up on everything. It's so rewarding. And I memorize it because there might be a day that I might not have her. And so I memorize the blessings I have now. And I'm forever humble with that because we shouldn't take for granted what we get. And the gifts from God are so much better than what you can ever get in this stupid world. This is so temporary. But that time, us talking, like we watched the Chiefs game yesterday, both lost our voice, yelling and screaming. It was wonderful. Moments. That's what life is, moments.
And having that quality of life. You're both healthy, right? And I think a lot of people too have to take responsibility for their health. A lot of times I think we think others are going to have to be responsible to take care of us when you could start doing it right now. I don't want to be unhealthy. So my daughters, when I'm 65 or 70, I may end up in a wheelchair. I have no idea. But my point being is I don't want to be a burden. I want to have my health. I want that quality of life and I want to enjoy it with them. I didn't want to be the dad and believe me, I used to be very heavy. I was up to 250 pounds, but I usually just lift heavy weights. So I was really just like a bodybuilder guy. Yeah. So, but I knew as I was aging, I was starting to have complications. I could feel it in my heart and my family has a history of heart disease. And I'm like, do I want to be here for my kids to graduate college? Like, it's no joke. I had a podcast with another guy. Like, do I want to see my kids get married? Because if I'm this heavy now, who knows what I'm going to be like later, but what toll am I taking out of my body? Yeah. And then even what I was married at the time, like, what am I going to do? What is she going to be having to take care of me? Plus I had a daughter who has had a liver transplant and another one had type 1 diabetes. I'm like, am I the third thing she's got to worry about? So we all go through our own things in life. Yes. But if you just take responsibility and be honest to yourself, if you don't like the way you feel, change it. And my thing is change it slowly. I think too many people want to lose 30 pounds in 60 days, or they want to look like a jack bodybuilder and they jump on steroids or start taking all these supplements. Take it slow, just chill out, man, and just go along and enjoy it. The slower, I think a lot of times with health and wellness, the better off you're going to be because it's a lifetime journey. Don't think you have to get somewhere and lose 50 pounds on a crazy diet and hold that. Most likely you're not going to. Let's just try and lose a pound a week or a pound a month. Let's just start soft and kind of move forward.
When I coach, I say cinch by the inch.
Yeah, exactly.
Big things come from a lot of little things done right consistently. So pretty simple concept. Awesome. You can find your bonanzas and your quantum leaps. You'll get a few of those, but run 5 squares farther on the Monopoly board every now and then on the roll. But most of the time it's just slow and steady as she goes. And Rome wasn't built overnight. So I enjoy that part of it. You have such common sense in the way you approach stuff. It's part of what I admire in you. We are so much alike too.
Yeah, you're very kind. Thank you. I'm going to wrap this up. I never go more than an hour. I think me and you are well over an hour. No, I like this. I'll go on forever though, both of us, but I try to keep it.
Yeah, because you and I don't get a chance to fully catch up. So this has been fun.
Yeah, and we can do it again. I'd love to have you back after your stuff and kind of get caught up on what you've been doing and what you're still, because things change. I
promise I'm better on a second date.
No, I believe it. We all are, aren't we? So do you want to tell people where they could find you if you want them to, or how do you want to go about that?
The website is www.careerimages.com. And that has all our address, email, phone number, all that stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. And if they need to touch base with you, they could reach out to me as well.
Yes.
Ray, thank you so much. I'm going to actually have your cousin on one day. Or, I'm sorry, your nephew, not your cousin.
Nephew. And you'll like him.
I've talked to him. He's an amazing young man. I mean, it seems to be, he's so excited to be a father, and he's in amazing shape. And I love
Yes.
his mindset. He's just, is he
Yeah.
military? I'm trying to remember. I talked to so many people.
No military.
He
But
seems that militant
yes, he's
mindset.
very, very disciplined. But you talk about somebody with energy, you're going to enjoy him.
Yeah. So I'll share this with him. He texts me on holidays and stuff. I'm like, this
Yeah.
man is so kind.
He's good people.
He's
Him and his
wonderful.
wife
Thank
both.
you. Yeah. Thank you for introducing me to him. So,
You're welcome.
all right. That's all I got for you, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me as your guest.
All right.
You're a splendid host and a good friend. Emphasis on friend. Thank you again.
All right, Ray. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.